Welcome to the Employment Wednesday podcast with Yvonne Shabangu. Have you heard of the scripture Hosea 4, verse 6? My people perish because of the lack of knowledge. The same applies to your career. When you don't know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, you are likely to make wrong career choices. But worry not. Employment Wednesdays is here for you to offer you all the answers relating to your career and offer you strategies to develop your career. Enjoy. Hi, guys. You are welcome to another season of Employment Wednesdays, and this is season 2. I hope you guys enjoyed season 1, and I hope you learned so much from it. We're back again with more exciting career stories, career strategies. And so today's episode 1, and I'm seated by myself whilst we're trying to cook and find guests for you guys. So today I just want to talk about one of the things that we actually, like, I think most of us for the past 5 years, we've actually been pivoting. And some people don't understand what is the meaning of pivoting. And I think the first point of everybody pivoting was because of COVID-19. We were almost forced to pivot. How about I free you or give you the power to say you can pivot at any point of your life? You don't need to wait for a disruption to occur. In as much as pivoting can come with a disruption, but you can actually plan your own pivot at any point of your life. So today we're going to discuss the analogy of pivoting, why it's important to pivot. What are some of the things that you can expect whilst you're pivoting, right? So before I go into it, I just want to give you a definition from the Oxford Dictionary, which says pivoting, the turn on or as if on a pivot, the central point or complete change in the way in which someone does something, or oscillate or rotate or turn, right? So that's what it basically means. It means it's a central point of change, or a central point of turning, or a central point of oscillating, escalating. Hey, I'm not English. So yeah, that's where it's at, right? And I just want, before I go into the heart of the conversation, I just want to let you know that you are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to change how you want to do things. And sometimes you're not going to get the hint to say it's time to change. You just need to be deliberate about your career, about your life, to sense that a change must occur. Because pivoting doesn't announce itself. You don't get an alarm to say, hey, it's time to pivot. You need to sense it by being deliberate and intentional in how you do certain things in your life, right? And then it's important to know when to make the necessary change. So we don't just pivot because, I don't like this anymore. I just need to pivot. You need to be strategic about it because, as the definition says, it's a central point, it's a turning point, meaning it changes your whole existence, it changes your whole life. So if you're not careful, pivoting can actually turn your life upside down for the worst, or it can turn your life for the good, which is why you need to be strategic about the timing of your pivoting. And also, you need to ensure that you're prepared for the pivoting. So, one of the things that I learned while I was researching on the topic of pivoting, just in our lives and in general, is that we were created to pivot. Even from the time we are created, or from the time we were born, our nature is changing. Our nature is pivoting. Our nature is actually rotating. You would realize from the analogy of a child growing up, right? So a child is born. When they're born, they don't stay constant. They don't remain the same. They don't maintain the same height or maintain the same mannerism. They change with time. They crawl. They get tired of crawling. They start learning how to stand. They get tired of learning how to stand. They start walking. They fall, and at some point they actually start walking properly. So that analogy should tell you that in life, whether it's in our careers, in our personal relationships, or in anything that we do, we must be expectant of change, because the only thing that's ever constant is probably the love of God. That's it, because it remains the same. But any other thing, it is going to change. Once you change your perspective or your narrative on pivoting, you would realize that you start flowing and you start reaping the benefits of pivoting. You start reaping the benefits of understanding that change is not here to take you out or change is not here to suffocate you. Yes, I know that when changes are taking place or when a turning point of your life happens, it is disruptive. It is going to get comfortable, but you need to teach yourself how to flow, because when you flow, almost like water, no matter what happens, water flows, right? And because it flows, it endures through everything, whether it's a storm, whether it's a rainy day, whether it's summer, it will still flow. So you need to take up the character of water and teach yourself to flow and teach yourself to learn to navigate and to learn to adapt to stuff, right? And then again, pivoting doesn't always have to be in big moments. Most of the time we think our turning point or our central point of our lives is in these big things. I've graduated, or I've finished my masters, or I've gotten a job. We think that's where pivoting happens, and definitely pivoting happens there. But sometimes pivoting is actually honoring that meeting, honoring that dinner. You don't know what's going to be discussed there. You don't know who you're going to meet. Pivoting can also be in the small things, in the small choices you make. You can decide you don't want to drink your 2 liter of water today. But trust, if you honor to drink it, your body will thank you years to come. So pivoting and turning points of our lives are in the small things and in the small choices we make to become better individuals. And again, like I said earlier on, pivoting is not always glamorous, right? It is actually very disruptive, right? Every time any changes take place in our lives, it is disruptive. You are going to feel like the whole world is against you. You are going to feel like things will never work out. You are going to feel like this is the end. But I want to also affirm you to say a pivoting point or a turning point of your life is actually the beginning of your best potential or your best abilities. So honor it, embrace it, take up space in that moment of change, take up space in that turning point. You would realize that your biggest break might just be at that turning point that seems comfortable. So get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? So I'll give you guys a story time now that I've preached and preached, which is the heart of the conversation. So at some point in my life, I thought by now, at this age, as I'm seated here, I thought I'm going to be an associate. I'm going to be this corporate Betty. I'm going to be this person that is fighting to, that is known in the banking space, because I mean I got a master's in banking law. I didn't envision myself to be where my career is, right? I had a different plan. But what I did is I had to flow with the changes that were taking place in my life, right? So I get my articles, finish my 2 years, and I don't get returned as an associate. I knew for some odd reason something inside of me was telling me. I just didn't know or know how to name it, to say, okay, this is the turning point of my life, or this is the pivoting point of my life. I didn't know that was the point, right? Something kept on telling me. I think I was in 1 year, 8 months, or 1 year, 7 months, where I almost quit my articles. The puzzle was no longer fitting in. I kept on getting this feeling that my journey had come to an end at that particular moment in that particular thing I was doing. I just didn't understand what was going on. I didn't know that that was that little voice, okay, the Holy Spirit in me telling me that you are about to pivot and you have to pivot, right? So I almost wanted to quit my articles. And then, you know what? My friend was like, no, don't quit, just finish up and stuff. Then I finished up, right? And then when I finished up, it's time to get returned, right? I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to be an associate, because I knew like my bosses liked me. I know how to do my job, right? Can be playful sometimes, but I just felt like, you know what, I could take up that role and become associate and, be in a corporate law firm and stuff, right? And then now I'm told that I'm not going to get returned as an associate. But then the tricky part is, and that's the thing, when you try and fight the pivot, you might end up in a very darker place or in a very uncomfortable, painful place. I'm glad I didn't fight the pivot. I'm glad I listened to the latter voice. So when they tell me that they're not going to return me, a part of me wanted to say, oh no, but this, I've got a track record of this and all of that. A voice in me said, just keep quiet. I remember very well that day, my principal kept on asking me, do you have anything to say? Are you sure that you don't have anything to say? I said no. I kept on saying no. But deep down, I wanted to say, oh no, but this, but that. And then I remember when he ended that conversation, he said, oh no, but there's still so many months, we can still change our minds and so would return you. It's entirely also up to you and how you change your attitude with certain things, right? I wanted to fight for that spot. I wanted to hold on to that season or to that era. But a voice in me kept on saying, no, you have to let it go. You can beg your way through, but it's time to change. And I kid you not, that was a turning point of my life. That was a turning point for Employment Wednesdays. That was a turning point for a lot other dreams that I want to achieve. And here's how it is, right? When you look at it, it's like, oh no, technically she got fired. She doesn't have a job anymore. Maybe she's not good enough. But when you look at it right now, you'd realize that when you look at it right now, you realize that it wasn't that I wasn't good enough. It wasn't that I got fired. It wasn't that things are not going to work out for me. It was just a moment where God disrupted my familiarity, disrupted what I thought was the truth, what I thought was there forever. And He said, let me introduce you to a new part. That is where the turning point happens, right? When this turning point happens, I'm thinking, I was worried. I'm going to be unemployed. I'm not going to have a job. If I applied other law firms, they're going to be like, oh, why didn't you get returned? Which means you're not delivering and all of that. And I sat in that moment. It was very uncomfortable. But I say to God, God, here I am. You have disrupted my norm. You have disrupted my familiarity. Take me to a place where I may not understand what you're doing, but I'm going to show up for whatever you want me to show up for. Okay, fast forward. At some point, I had interviewed at a particular company. One thing about me, I have a track record of interviewing at particular companies. And when I don't get the job in the moment, I'll always be called back, right? So I had interviewed previously when I wanted to quit my articles, mid articles, and they were like, okay, you have to start ASP. And at the time, I couldn't start. They said they wanted me to start in December, and I couldn't start in December because I had decided to finish up my articles all the way to April. So they're like, okay, we loved you, but unfortunately, you have to start now. If you're not going to start now, then we can't give you the offer. I'm like, okay, cool, that's fine. Then fast forward, when I'm told that I'm not going to be returned, then I'm like, okay, let me go back to where I was once interviewed. I call the recruiter. I'm like, hey, remember me? You had said I'm the best fit, but now I have capacity, right? And this is me saying I have capacity in January or February. I think it was around February. I tell the recruiter, I'm like, hey, I've got capacity. Please do consider me. I didn't know that the recruiter is going to consider me in that very moment. He says, okay, cool. I'll call you in a week or so. He calls me, and then when he calls me, he's like, hey, are you ready to start in March? I have another predicament because I'm thinking my articles only finish in April. So how am I going to start in March? Then I say to him, oh, no, I can't start in March. I'll have to start in April. Then he says, unfortunately, you have to speak to your manager, then your prospective manager. Then I contact my prospective manager, say, hey, I've got a predicament. I need to finish my articles. I'm happy to take the job. I would like to take the job, but I have to finish my articles. And then after that, the manager's like, oh no, you're putting me in a tough place. If you're not going to start in March, then unfortunately, we cannot take you on. Then I say, okay, that's fine. And when I say, okay, that's fine, she's probably thinking, you are so egocentric. Like, why would you say, okay, fine, the job can go in an economy where unemployment is at its highest, in an economy where like it's hard to get a job, right? So I say to her, it's fine. And in my heart, I was thinking, God, what am I going to do with this turning point of my life? If I'm not going to get returned, I'm turning down a job because I need to complete this very thing that you had previously blessed me with. What am I going to do? Couple of days later, then she calls me. She's like, okay, it's fine. You can start at your convenience. Just complete your articles. As soon as you complete, please come through. And I was like, okay, cool. And guess what? I have mastered in banking law. I'm done with my articles where I did a lot of commercial work. And I was thinking I'm probably going to get another position. My next position is going to be commercial related stuff or corporate related stuff, right? When I get there, I'm thrown into labor. I'm like, what? Labor? What am I going to do here? I'm not a specialist. I'm probably not qualified to be here. The best knowledge I have of labor is probably the 3 months in my articles where I did employment related matters, and the other 1 year in my final year of law where I did labor laws. But I didn't think that was enough. And already that's where my mind was not at. Like my mind wasn't there because I had this big plan for myself to say, you know what, I'm going to be a corporate Betty. I'm going to do this or that. But that got disrupted. And I had no choice than to floor, right? And when that pivot took place, I was happy I have a job. I'm going to be able to pay my bills. At least I'm not part of the statistics. But I was really so not happy. I was like, oh my God, I need to leave this place. Guys, I was like, I need to leave this job right now. I need to find another job. I was applying like crazy, applying like crazy. I wanted to leave. And even my performance at work wasn't so great because I was resisting the change. I was resisting the pivoting point. So the thing about pivoting, because pivoting is a turning point. So when you resist and turn the other way, you are the one that suffers, unfortunately. You are the one that goes through the pain because sometimes you don't have to resist change, you have to flow with it. So, because I was resisting change, thinking about where I should be working, applying at banks and all of that, getting rejected getting rejection after rejection, getting offers and being ghosted, attending interviews and being ghosted. This one faithful day, I was just sitting and I had like, it was almost as a voice in my heart. I believe that that was the Holy Spirit. Someone would say it's intuition. Somebody will say they were just thinking out loud or reflecting. But for me, it was the Holy Spirit that said, why are you so obsessed with leaving this place? Have you even learned anything? Have you even gotten anything out of this place that you are insisting on leaving so badly that you're hurting yourself? Right now, you're not performing as great at work and you know yourself, you can do better. But because you're so fixated on the former or what you thought you deserved, that you're missing the moment right now, you're missing the turning point of your life. That very moment, I stopped applying and I was like, you know what, the next job that I need to go to, it will find me. Let me just stay in this job, learn as much as I can. At that time, my KPI scores were just dwindling, they were down. By the time I think I finished my 1 year at my job and my position, around about April this year. By the time we hit June on our first cycle of this year, I was one of the best performing people. If you look at my incentive, like it's mad business. It's like, what? How did we get here? How did you become so good? Even when we're doing one-on-one evaluations with my manager, like she was so excited. Oh my God, like your change just went all the way up. And it was all because I changed my perspective. It was all because I yielded to that voice that says, you better stop resisting. I have placed you here because I know that you need to be here. And I started thinking about it. Had I been returned, I was not going to be able to have capacity to sit here and be discussing Employment Wednesday matters, because if you know your job as an attorney, you must always be ready to receive an urgent. You must always be billing billables. You must work under pressure, long hours. I was not going to be able to make this dream, to make Employment Wednesday work, right? And then I thought about it. There's certain events I attended in the past year that helped me actually connect to certain individuals, that helped me learn a lot about myself and be able to grow. Had I still been in that former position, had I been an associate, I don't think I would have been able to enter those spaces. I don't think I would have been able to actually be in those rooms at the time that I was in. So sometimes the turning point, it looks like a storm, it looks like chaos because it turns like a volcano. Like that's what pivoting looks like. But when it settles, it actually gives you the best you can ever get. It gives you the better than the former. So from all of that, I realized that I really loved my previous job. I really wanted to grow in it. But unfortunately, that all got disrupted. And that's another thing, when you resist pivoting, or when sometimes you're not as attentive, like I said, you need to be attentive and you need to be calculative and strategic to see that it's time to pivot. If you're not calculative or disruptive, sometimes, if you're not calculative or strategic, sometimes your pivoting is going to be harsher. Your pivoting is going to be so disruptive because maybe you haven't been paying attention. So some people get fired, use that as a pivoting moment, let that be a turning point. Some people get retrenched. Some people will have to start businesses. And because God or whatever that you believe in, know that you are not going to leave until you're disrupted. So that disruption, that chaos that's taking place in your career, in your life, take it as a turning point. Make it your central point of unlocking your best possibilities. And another thing I want you to know is that every single thing that happens in your life, in your job, in your career, I know some people feel like you're too educated, you know too much, and you're not supposed to be in certain companies because they're too small. You're bigger than that. Yes, your existence is bigger than whatever you're doing. It's bigger than you even, right? But you need to get to a point where you understand that every single thing that happens in your life, every position that you hold, it is preparing you for your turning point. It is preparing you for your pivoting moment, right? Because if you are not prepared through the certain roles that you take place in, through the certain positions that you have, through the certain companies that you have, you may not be able to operate in the fullness of your next season. So in order for you to operate in the next fullness, in the fullness of your next season, you need to ensure that you allow preparation to take place. You allow yourself to be grilled. You allow yourself to be marinated. You allow yourself to be roasted, because by the time you learned, or by the time you get served by the biggest blessing of your life, you are able to take up space in that position. You are able to do what you're supposed to do, because if you don't position yourself or allow preparation to prepare you, you are going to be in such a dark place. You're going to always be resistant. You're going to always be depressed. Don't let chaos or changes taking place in your life make you feel like you're less than. That moment when you feel like, oh no, my job has come to an end, or the contract has come to an end, don't take it as, oh my God, now I'm part of the stats. Oh my God, what am I going to do? Open your eyes and open your ears and open your heart to the possibility that that could just be the moment where you're supposed to start a business. That could just be the moment where you're supposed to start your own thing. That just could be the moment where you're supposed to polish up your skill, right? And there's a word, like when I was taking a walk this morning, I thought of something. And this word was, do not abscond from your calling, your divine calling, right? And I will then narrate it this way in terms of your career. Do not abscond or resign from what God has called you to, because it's taking longer than anticipated, because it's taking longer than you would have loved it to take, right? Because sometimes we think, I want to be the biggest CEO shot. I want to make executive. I want to be the greatest speaker, but we don't want to go through the process. We don't want to go through the nuances that get us there. We don't want to go through certain things because we feel like, oh no, I've just gotten the knowledge. I need to jump seasons or jump steps. Don't allow yourself to fall into the trap of not wanting to be prepared, or not enjoying the journey, or not enjoying the process in the name of, I just want to get there. Don't quit, nor resign, nor abscond from your calling or your dream job simply because it's not happening at your pace and at your timing. I kid you not. Where you are supposed to be, you will be, regardless of the detours of life, regardless of how lengthy it takes. Sometimes the length, it means you will be more prepared. You will be able to excel beyond what you can imagine, because you were there longer in preparation, because you took your time to actually learn the things that you're supposed to learn. Yeah. So pivoting allows you to grow, right? It allows you to go into the next season of your life, and you just need to embrace every turning point of your life, every turning point of your journey. It will be disruptive. Sometimes it comes in ways that we don't like. Like, nobody wants to be fired. I don't want to be fired. You don't want to be fired. But pivoting may come in that way. Pivoting may come from a place of lack of motivation, lack of inspiration. Pivoting may come from messing up. But when it comes, do not resist it. Let it happen. And don't let it happen to you. Also happen to it. Flow with it. Position yourself and your perspective in a manner where you say, okay, I've messed up. Okay, I'm in a dark place. But may I have the courage and the audacity to flow with the season. May I be able to embrace it for what it is, because life is not out to get you. We are meant to enjoy and live life in fullness with all its challenges, right? And it's important that when you pivot, your mindset, because there's power in your mind. How you see yourself, how you think, or your thought process of certain things is dependent. How you see yourself, your thought process, your mindset actually determines how you show up in certain things. So if you think you're not good enough, you're going to show up as a person that's not good enough. If you think things are not supposed to work out for you, you are going to show up as that. But if you think highly of yourself, if you think of yourself as a person that is deserving, of a person that is good enough, of a person that is willing to learn, willing to change, willing to pivot, that's how you show up, yeah. So I really hope that from this conversation on pivoting, you do know that no one is keeping count. You're allowed to change your mind. I think I'm always grateful for my parents, because one thing they taught me is that at any point you can become anything you want. If I went home and said I wanted to be a doctor, I wanted to be this, I wanted to be that, they would always support it, because they understand that we are meant to navigate. We are meant to pivot. We are multifaceted human beings, and we need to take advantage of that. So don't box yourself or limit yourself and say, oh no, as a kid all I wanted to be is a doctor, and stay being a doctor when you see it's no longer working or serving you. You might not get the alarm that it's time to pivot or time to change, but you will see the signs. Your eyes need to be wide open so that you don't get the disruptive call of pivoting, because disruption is not always nice, and disruption it's harsh, because it can disrupt your whole existence. But when you take note of the signals, the signs that are telling you it's time to pivot, you're not interested in waking up early, you're not interested in doing certain things, you go to work, you do your own thing, you're abusing your company resources and all of these things. These are some of the things that tell you that now maybe it's time to go work for a different company. Maybe it's time to start applying for jobs. You've become complacent. You're no longer learning a new thing. Those are some of the signs that will show you that it's time to change. It's time to think about other things that you can do with yourself. Because like I said, you are not just one human being. You are multifaceted. So because you're multifaceted, when that time to change or that time to turn comes, you need to welcome it and embrace it. Excuse me. And when we allow ourselves to pivot, we give ourselves the opportunity to meet our best selves. Don't deprive yourself of that opportunity simply because you feel like you're not good enough, or simply because you're trying to hold on to the former or the past. Let go of the former, let go of the past, and look ahead and allow yourself to embrace the change. I hope this conversation or this topic or the story that I shared about myself having to pivot into an environment I never planned to, I hope it touches you, and I hope it reminds you that there are other things that you can do, and it reminds you that you can learn a new thing, and it reminds you that in the small things, and it reminds you that in the mundane tasks, in that job that you're doing, you feel like maybe you're a cleaner, maybe you're a tea lady, maybe you're a receptionist, you feel like, oh no, I have no purpose whatsoever. That job may just be preparing you for you to build your own empire, to build your own business, to build your own thing. So it is very important that you honor every little title, every little place, every little season, or wherever you are in its fullness, so that you can be able to learn from it, so that you can be prepared to enter into the next season. And with that being said, I hope you enjoy season 2. I hope it's everything that you dream of. I hope it changes how you see life, and I hope it changes how you see your career, your job, because there is a difference between a job and a career. And we start building our careers from the jobs we get. Might not be the dream job, but that job will help you build the blocks into the career of your dreams, right? So I hope you know that you can change your mind, pivot as much as you need to, do what you got to do, and always remember you are never alone. You're always gracefully anchored. And happy Employment Wednesdays. See you next week. Tell me your changing story or your pivoting story of your career that made you realize, you know what, I can do anything. Do not forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment, and love and light. See you next week.